So we live together.
Yep.
We watch football together.
Yep.
We talk about football together.
Yep.
Why don't we just start a podcast?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the eye test. It's your boy Lyés, my guy CultureCams. Premier League season starts this weekend. And I figured, we're not going to do a whole Premier League table prediction. I'm sure you're actually going to see that on our own channels anyways, right? But let's kind of just look at a few of the big stories heading into the season, like a few of the bigger clubs, what it kind of looks like, what their chances kind of look like, and just speak about it, not in generalities, but without kind of going in, this season, this team's going to finish here, this team's going to finish here. What do they need to do maybe to win the league? Have they done enough in the window already? With that being said, where do you want to start with this? Because there's a few clubs that have made major moves this window. There's a few clubs that maybe haven't done as much, but I mean, first and foremost, I want to say this. I think it is the toughest Premier League to call that I can remember for a few years now. I feel like a lot of teams are at a similar level, especially that top four, which I think has kind of separated themselves from the chasing pack this year.
You know what it is though, right? So it's funny because sometimes we say a season's easy to call. Like last year, City, Arsenal top two, and then Liverpool go and win it comfortably. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's another situation with this year where it's like, I think it's hard to call. You know, I mean, if this Isak situation, which we're going to get into, but if this Isak situation pans out to Liverpool, I can't lie, last couple of days, not only because of Palace, I've just been thinking, you just get different feelings. One second you think this team, next second you think this team, next thing. But then if they get Isak, it just feels a little bit like, I feel like, okay, they'll win the league. You know what I'm trying to say? But at the same time, I do agree. I think, look at what Chelsea, the mood Chelsea are in at the moment. Arsenal still Arsenal. We're very intrigued to see what City are going to look like. Is there any dark horses, mid-table who some teams have made signings, some teams have lost players. So the table is going to look very different than it did last year. Forest, are you going again? We don't really know these type of things. Newcastle seem to be having a bad window in terms of attracting players. Might lose Isak. So let's see what happens with the season. But now I'm actually genuinely excited for it. And it's definitely, I think for you as well, I reckon it's going to be our hardest working season. I think for us two as creators, I think it's going to be our hardest working season. I think guys are going to see us two, we're taking over, bro. I'm telling you right now. Man. I hope so.
In this industry, bro, more work is good.
Yeah, facts.
So I hope I'm hardworking.
Yeah.
Which club would you like to start with?
I think we have to start with this whole Newcastle-Liverpool business, man, with the Isak situation. Or wait, are you talking about like predictions for the? I
mean, it deals with it, bro. Like in terms of the Isak to Liverpool, because you said it yourself. Yeah. If they get Isak, that's a big game changer.
Yeah, I think we got to start.
I think they already go into the season as favorites. First of all, because they won it and because they've done some really good business. But adding a player of that caliber, someone who some people say is a top 5 center forward in the world, that does make you even more irresistible. Even though I think, I think there are people who are kind of just dismissing concerns that is it too much up front? Is it a lot to kind of compensate for from a balance point of view? I think people trying to just kind of write that off is a little bit foolish, man. Like, we've seen teams build crazy teams on paper, right? Where the attack looks absolutely stacked, but football isn't played on paper. No. It has to work on a football pitch. So I'm not saying I have no doubt that I have a doubt that Arne Slot can make it work. I mean, he's a great manager who showed a lot of tactical flexibility last year. But I don't think it should be sniffed at if someone says, well, let's see how it works out. Because if anyone is going to tell me the reason they don't think Liverpool wins the league this season, the reason they would probably give me is it's a lot of new moving parts that might not all of a sudden gel together in one season. And if they told me that, I'd be like, maybe I disagree, but I think it's a valid
we've seen
thing.
it. Like, it's not a bad thing to
say.
Last
year with Mbappe and Real Madrid.
We've seen it happen in many times in football, not just Mbappe at Real Madrid. We've seen it happen a lot of times in football. So it's definitely, no one can walk into anything 100%. We can't just say it's 100% going to happen.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I find interesting is actually, which is in a way, I don't know where your stance is on this year, is I feel like Liverpool are selling a lot of players. So Liverpool are selling a lot of players. I wonder what that's going to also do for their depth. Yeah. And not only their depth, but just general mood around the place. Like, we've won together. And it's not necessarily players that they're selling who are like Robertson. Okay, he's been there for a long time, and it's not Jordan Henderson or anything like that. It's like Tsimikas. It's like Harvey Elliott. It's like
those guys are still here for now.
No. What I'm saying is they still have their career ahead of them type thing. Like, they're kind of not new, but what I'm trying to say is they're not washed. They're not washed players.
Yeah.
So I feel like them selling them, not saying it's gonna detriment their season, but I am curious to see, like, sometimes too much change isn't always good. You bring in new players, you let 6 go, you bring in 4. It's not always the right thing, but I guess to raise money for someone like Isak to be able to get Ekitike Verts in the same summer, you've got to let some people go. So I just want to, that's my own thing. I'm interested to see, does that have any effect on things? Obviously, Jota's situation, and then obviously Nunes left as well. So it's like
Diaz
a lot
as
of
well
moving.
too,
Diaz has left.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sales, isn't it?
I don't really. I think from a unity point of view, in terms of, like, 'cause I hear what you're saying, right? In terms of if you let too many guys go, especially like guys who are popular in the dressing room. Like Costa Simicas is reportedly very popular in the dressing
He's like
room.
Salah's best friend or something like that.
I don't know about. Yeah, you might be.
He's Rodrigo de
But
Paul.
I
and Sir
definitely hear it
Messi,
from that
innit?
point of view, but I do feel like Liverpool's dressing room is a tight knit one.
Yeah.
From what we see, I don't think that will really be a big concern. Even though, I mean, like, look, Darwin left, and you saw the messages. Clearly, he's a popular guy in the dressing room as well too. I just, like, for me, they definitely need attacking depth. Like, that for me is not a question. I have no doubt about that. When you lose 2 attackers like that, and then of course the Jota situation, which is so ridiculously unfortunate and heartbreaking, you need to replace those guys. So I totally get it. But for me, it's like Isak being the replacement when you've already got Ekitike as well too. That's crazy, man. But where do you kind of sit on the Isak situation, right? Because it's been the biggest transfer saga of the summer. It's dragged on. It looks like we're kind of approaching an end to it. I think ultimately it has gotten so toxic now between Isak and Newcastle, and probably the fans as well too, probably his teammates as well too, that it does feel like eventually it's going to kind of happen. But what do you make of the entire move in its whole? Because you know what's so funny? I feel like Liverpool have almost just kind of been watching from the side, like seeing the world burn in front of them and saying, okay, just tell us when to act. Like, we put the idea in his head, and now let's just kind of wait for it to happen. But how do you kind of make of the Isak and Liverpool and the Newcastle situation?
It's I did a video, but it's like, it's very, like, there's 2 extremes going on. You know what I mean? I feel like there's an extreme going on. I think a middle ground needs to be found. And when I say a middle ground, I think what Isak, the crashing out that he's doing is excessive. I think it is excessive, 100%. I think, especially, I know maybe I'm speaking for Newcastle fans, but I feel like they held him, in terms of strikers in their modern time, feel like they held him probably only second to flipping Alan Shearer.
Yeah, he was probably
I mean, in terms of what he's done for the club, and in terms of actually being the best striker since Shearer, he is. You know what I mean? Like, Demba Bar, Pip, Cisse, shout out them, but you know what I mean? But Isak's a better player. So I feel like this is heartbreaking for them. So I feel like I thought he would have maybe like considered that kind of situation. But at the same time, I do think, look, players should honor their contracts. Like, you've signed a contract. Nobody put a gun to your head to sign that contract. You signed that contract. So when you don't get your move, I don't think it should be like, I'm not playing. I think that is wrong. But at the same time, I think football clubs do this to players too. And the examples that I would give is, you look at Chelsea when they were banishing Sterling, banishing Trevor Chalobah, whatever. You look at Man United right now, Anthony, Malacia, like, they're just bad. They're just not good players, but doesn't mean why they're not training, you know? So you look at these type of guys where Man United are trying to force these guys out. Chelsea are trying to, just using these 2 as examples. So clubs try and force players out too when they want to. So it's kind of like how do we find a middle ground? Isak, for me, my last thing is, Isak for me should be talking to Liverpool through his intermediaries or whatever and saying, up the bid. If you really want me, up the bid.
Yeah.
Go to higher. Now, I think Newcastle's saying 150 million. For me, that's too much money. But if it's like, we want 150, but we aim high and then we'll negotiate to about 130, which is a British transfer record, by the way. But expecting Newcastle to accept 110 million after Verts just went for 116, it's not a British transfer record fee. You know the level of player you are, Isak. I think there he should just be a little bit more considerate that they need to go a little bit higher. Now, if they bid 130, 135 million and Newcastle rejected, I ain't gonna lie, I'll be like, Isak, do whatever you want. But I just think, and I said the same thing with Wissa. 19 Premier League goals last season, and they bid 25 million, and you're not coming to training.
Yeah.
come on, bro. Like, give these clubs a chance to at least make some money off you.
think
So
it's-
I think it's a middle ground.
I think you're being generous, to be honest. I hear your point because look, I'm consistent with this. I hate seeing teams banish players to their academy or stripping them of their squad numbers, because I think at that point you're literally reducing them to like the basic form of an asset. Like, these guys are still human beings at the end of the day. You owe them, in my opinion, still the chance to train with the first team. You're the one who gave them that contract, so don't get mad now when they honor that contract. But I think this would be a similar equivalency if, for example, Man United just terminated Tyrell Malacia's contract, which they technically aren't allowed to do unless he basically violates his contract. He hasn't done that, so they are still forced to pay him. Even when they're banishing him from the first team, they're still paying his contract weekly.
Is it fair though?
Whether it's fair or not, it's still
Not let him train.
No, I
his
agree.
teammates.
I agree. It's not fair, but they're still honoring the contract. It's not like they sent him there and now he's on under 21 wages. They still are honoring the contract. So we're looking at this from a purely business point of view. Now, if we take it to Newcastle, Isak has effectively 3 years left on his deal. So Newcastle in this situation should have power in the contract. Like, if Isak wants to go, Newcastle will sell him for what they value him at. And when you look at similar deals like Caicedo and Declan Rice, two deals that went over 100 million, they had, I think Declan Rice had 2 to 3 years left on his deal as well too. And they got 110 million from him, 105 million from him. If you look now 2 years down the line, how the window has how the market has changed, you look at Isak, who's more of a goal scorer, who's always going to go for more money, and you look at Liverpool, who just showed that they're willing to spend that kind of money. I think Newcastle are well within their rights, 3 years left on their deal, to say, we're going to start at 150, and you can go down from there, but that's the starting point. Now, for Isak to go and look at that and say, no, I'm not happy, I'm refusing to play for this club if you don't sell me this window, when they have 3 years left on your deal. You signed a 6-year contract, bro. No one put a gun to your head to sign that contract. 3 years left on your deal. I'm sorry, bro. I think to throw your toys out the pram the way he's, literally, he's not literally doing that, but the way he's doing that, I think is massively out of touch, and I think it sets a dangerous precedent, because now if every single player with 3 years left on their deal, the minute they want to move and they don't get it on their terms, all of a sudden says, I'm never going to play for this club again. We're going to have a problem, guys, because all of a sudden we're not going to have any players to play for these football clubs. I understand wanting to leave. I do not hold it against Isak whatsoever for wanting to join Liverpool. It's a step up in the footballing food chain. He's going to be playing Champions League regularly, challenging for the trophies. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world. I totally get him wanting to leave. But you have to give your club a chance here too. And first and foremost, they've tried replacing you. They haven't been able to. And Liverpool, yes, they're waiting for Newcastle to give approval too. But if they want to be aggressive and go in with a big 120, 130 million bid, all of a sudden that forces Newcastle's hand a bit more. They haven't done that. So I think Isak should have handled the situation a whole lot more. I think the way he's doing it, I hate to say it, it gives spoiled kid energy. Like, the minute you don't get your way, you just throw everything out the door and say, no, I never want to play for this club again. I'm selling my house. Sell me to Liverpool this summer or else. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah. I do think Newcastle will probably settle, but I do think at the same time, it needs to be on a middle ground. As I said, in the middle ground of for me, 130. They have to break the British transfer record.
100%.
They have to break the British transfer record, and I think that's where it should be. And as I said, Isak, I hear the frustrations, but I do think, listen, I've known of some deals that have happened before, right? And let's say, I'm not going to say the figures or whatever, because I don't want people to try to put pieces together, but let's say it's 50 million, yeah? I know of players that they've gone for 50 million, and the club have rejected 45 million. The club have rejected 50 million, sorry. Let me say that again. The player's valuation was 50 million. A club has bid 50 million, but the club didn't bid that 50 million in the terms that football club wanted. So that player went to the buying club through his agents and basically said, you have to up your standing rate, for example. So instead of 25 million plus 20 here and 5 in add-ons or whatever, they end up going to 40 million plus 10. Then they got the player. Do you get where I'm coming from? That's something I think maybe Isak should be doing with his team. That's personally what I think he should be doing, but yeah.
I just think this whole thing of sell me on my terms or whatever. No, Newcastle have you for 3 more years. They have every right to hold out for their valuation, in my opinion. Now, Isak has every right as well too. Just like for me, I stood by Trent by this, and I stand by it with every player. If a player wants to run down his contract and leave on a free, I have no issue with them doing that because you're honoring your contract and now you're leaving on your own terms to go get the deal you want.
Yeah.
By all means, bro, I'm all for player power. But when you're on a contract and you also have 3 years left on your deal, I don't think you should have as much power as Isak claims to have in the situation where if you don't get what you want, you're just gonna throw it in the ultimate hissy fit, and everyone around you has to suffer because of it.
I don't like that. I've never liked the fact that, you know, I'm not going to play.
That's crazy, bro.
I always hate
even
that.
this whole thing, I'm not gonna train.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't.
bro,
I
what?
hate all of that. I hate all of that. It's just better now for it to just get resolved.
And
man.
one last thing, because I don't want to make this whole thing an Isak, it's a Premier League prediction. People now saying, "Oh, he told Eddie Howe with 2 weeks left in the season, I want to leave." Who gives a shit, bro? Respectfully, right? What is Eddie Howe supposed to say? Cheers, mate. See you for the next game. What the hell? You can say you want to leave. You have 3 years left on your deal. Go find a club willing to pay the valuation. That's business, bro. Anyways, look, I feel like we've been very. This seems almost like an anti-Liverpool video or whatever. Like we've been pretty.
Nah.
And no, it's giving the vibe that we're just saying like, oh, Liverpool, they might struggle.
No, I think Liverpool winning the league.
I think they're gonna win the league as well too.
Yeah.
I think we're playing devil's advocate with the could there perhaps be some
Yeah,
balance
yeah,
issues.
yeah.
I think that's a devil's advocate argument. We have to see it to believe it. But I think going into the season, they look the strongest. I think Arne Slot's proven his credentials, even though this will be another test because it's starting to shape more in his team. And at the end of the day, as poorly as he played against Palace, the team that have the best players in the league, I will always kind of favor them for the league title. And if your team employs Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah, and then potentially
Van Dijk.
Isak as well too.
Van Dijk.
Nah, for me, until I see substantial proof that they fell off, if you have those two players and then Isak on top of it, you have potentially the 3 best players in the league, or at least the top 5. I have to favor them as league favorites. But football's not played on paper, so we'll see. Who do you see as Liverpool's biggest challengers this season? Because I think this is where it starts to get a little muddled. I think there's 3 teams on a similar footing.
For me, I'm going Arsenal and Chelsea. And Chelsea, yeah. I think Arsenal and Chelsea. I think Arsenal, their floor isn't that. Their floor is just not that low, bro. You know what I mean? I just think
they have a high floor. Yeah.
They dominate every game. You know what I mean? Like pretty much every game. So it's like even when they play Liverpool, they dominate possession. Like when you have more of the ball and you play the way that they play, they have the defense that they have. I think
that's the big one. I think they concede less chances.
Yeah.
They don't really give other teams
bare
even
chances.
A sniff,
Yeah.
which makes them very hard to beat.
Yeah, exactly. So it didn't help last season because they had a lot of draws, but you hope with now Gyökeres and some attacking reinforcements,
but for example, they would
score
never
more.
go 1 win in 13 like City last
Yeah,
year.
exactly. It's impossible, bro. So I look at Arsenal and I think, you know, Arsenal, not much different for me to say from last season in terms of what I expect from them. Obviously, Zubimendi instead of Partey, he looks like he's been good in pre-season. He can offer something decent. I want to see Declan Rice in a pivot with Zubimendi. That's what I really want to see.
I think the two of them will complement each other well.
Yeah, man, I want to see him in a pivot with Zubimendi. Get him close to Zubimendi, you know, subside for maybe some physical deficiency, let me say, or whatever that Zubimendi might have.
The most athletic. Okay.
Exactly. So I would like Declan Rice and him next to each other instead of Declan Rice playing in the left, sometimes popping up in 10 positions in the left 8 and stuff.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I think, you know, Odegaard needs to have a big year, of course. But I look at Arsenal and I look at Chelsea, man. I think Chelsea, I like what they got going on, bro. I like what they got going on for real. I think they're in a good mood. I think that Club World Cup could have been a catalyst for something. Maybe some people want to speak down on it. They're not. Trust me, they're not speaking down on it. They believe in themselves now. They just beat the best team in the world, 3-0. The best team in the world. So I don't care what stage you played in. It wasn't, by the way, it wasn't pre-season. Like nobody was treating it like pre-season. They comprehensively beat the best team in the world in a final. So, and I'm looking at João Pedro, the way he's playing. Delap scored 2 goals off the bench. Like, they're all in good spirits. Esteval's getting his debuts and stuff. And Gittins had a nice little debut game. And Parma's Parma. And I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the depth they've got. Andre Santos is coming off the bench. I'm looking at the depth they've got. Colwell was a loss, definitely, for them. Maybe they'll strengthen, but they brought in Hato. They brought in they've got Tosin. They got Chalobah.
They have one of the deepest.
They've got a deep team, man. They got a deep team for the fact that Champions League, all this stuff might not affect them the way it can affect others. So I'm looking at Chelsea as, I don't even want to call Chelsea a dark horse because they spent 2 billion or whatever it is, right, or 1 billion or whatever. But I'm looking at Chelsea and I think they're gonna have a strong year. And I looked at their first 5 games, as I said, all London fixtures. And none of them are really like London derby, like Arsenal or Spurs. It's the West Ham, Brentford, Fulham. What other London teams are in the Premier League? There's others. Anyway, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking Chelsea just have to go around the corner for every game, their first 5. I think Chelsea are starting the season right top of the league, bruv. And I think from there, momentum. So I'm looking at, let's not forget, Chelsea only fell off from February-ish? January.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Chelsea, and I think Chelsea this year are going to be serious. And I'm struggling between. I'm struggling between to see the third or second.
You didn't mention Gyökeres.
No, I said Gyökeres will add something in terms of maybe turning them draws into wins potentially.
That's another one for me in terms of what could change this season, like what could be what turns Arsenal from nearly men to champions.
Yeah,
I think that's a big one, bro.
Yeah.
I think if Gyökeres is even half the striker he showed in Portugal, I think that's something that could potentially propel.
That's 25
Arsenal
goals.
to the top. Yeah, that's what you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think if Gyökeres can even be like a 20-goal a season striker in the Prem, that could be the difference maker for Arsenal. Now, I don't really buy the narrative that Arsenal all they're missing is just a goal scorer. I think they are missing more. And in my opinion, if they let Eze go to Spurs and Rodrigo go to City, I think it's a massive fumble on their part because I still think they need something different on that left-hand side, something a bit more creative, something with a bit more individual quality than what they've got. Like Madueke appears to be the option they're going for on that side, but I think they're massively missing a trick without those two. However, with that being said, I still think adding a guy like Gyökeres, who, although he's a great goal scorer, I think the thing I like the most about it from an Arsenal point of view is he gives them something different. That threat in behind is something that no one really else has. Well, maybe Martinelli in terms of transition threat, but it gives that Arsenal attack a new dimension. I think when you're buying new players, adding something new to what you previously didn't have is always a positive, in my opinion.
I think, Arsenal didn't have a great preseason. So a lot of people are going to be thinking, are Arsenal this, Arsenal that. Now apparently Eze might go Spurs. They're going to get the crash out. You're going to get the meltdowns. But I think Arsenal will still be there or thereabouts, I think. And I think the reason, obviously the team that we've not spoken about, on my side anyways, Man City. For me, I think it was you that said it last season, yeah? Where you were like, are we just now saying it's Real Madrid because it's Real Madrid? Like, we're just saying it. Where we don't care about nothing. We're just saying, hey, it's Real Madrid.
Don't even look at how they play.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just doing that. It's Pep. It's Pep. It's Pep. It's Pep. He's going to make Bernardo all of a sudden 10 years younger, is he? He's going to make Gundogan 10 years younger, is he? He's going to make Rodri fitter, is he? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, Cherky, excellent player. Reinders, excellent player. Ait Nori, good player. You know what I mean? We'll see how it fits in. On the other side, they've got Mateus Nunes. In the middle, they've got Ruben Diaz, who I don't think listen, his time might have soon start coming to an end. You're looking at, who's alongside him? Akanji still?
No,
Vardio, you know what I mean? He's been playing left back for the whole time he's been at City.
He's played centre back a large part last season.
Fair enough, but I'm just looking at it. Defensively, I'm not convinced. I still think it's lightweight midfield. I'm thinking about what City's midfield could be, right? Bernardo, Foden, let's just say, Bernardo's captain, he's going to play. Bernardo, Foden, Rodri, Reinders, and Marmoush or something like that. I need to see if he's going to play Cherky. I believe it when I see it, you know what I mean? For me, it's still very lightweight. We've never had a concern over City as ballers. We never have a concern. But one thing which Pep says himself, the league is getting faster, the league is getting stronger, the league is getting more athletic. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, have they really addressed that? Have they really, last season, Lyés, when you looked at Man City's issues, have they addressed any of the points that you thought they would?
Well, I think one point that does address it is Rodri. Seeing what he comes back, because I think that's a big band-aid, Rodri. Like City weren't even great in my opinion the year they won the last league title, but I think Rodri was so individually great by himself that I felt at times he almost knitted the entire midfield together on his own. And I think when Rodri's at his best, he's a player capable of doing that. I think a big question mark of the season for City is, do we see that return of that version of Rodri? What does he look like after the injury? I'll tell you off what I've seen. I watched every game of the Club World Cup. I think Rodri looked rusty. And then he picked up an injury after that that's going to rule him out till September. So let's see what version of Rodri comes back. But one thing I don't want to do is underestimate that guy's value, because I do think when Rodri is playing at his absolute apex like he was the previous 2 seasons before his injury, that guy's capable of solving a lot of problems on his own, bro. I personally do believe that. Like, he's of that level that all of a sudden, in transition, City look a little stronger. In terms of how solid they look in midfield, they look a little stronger. How they look in terms of controlling games, they look a little stronger. I think a big thing for City as well, too, this year, and we were talking about this yesterday, right, off camera. But it's staggering to me how sentimental Pep seems to have gotten. Because for as long as I've seen Pep Guardiola manage football games, one thing I've attributed to him is ruthlessness. Aguero is on the decline, you're out of here. David Silva's on the decline, okay, we'll replace you. Ronaldinho, that's the most famous one. Like, if Schweinsteiger at Bayern, if he sees any kind of physical or mental cracks, he will replace you just like that. And yet, I feel like with City, as of late, he's become a whole lot more...
Longest club he's served.
Emotional, bro. Yeah. Bernardo, Gundogan, Kovacic, John Stones, Akanji. I think these guys need to be shifted out of the team. And I think they've signed great players in those kinds of positions. I know people are kind of stuck up on this Kusanov, right? Because he had some rough patches last season. But this guy's supposed to be the future. Like, they signed him. He's still, 20, 21 years old. At some point, you're going to have to start playing him a whole lot more than you do Akanji. Reinders now. I don't want to see Reinders in and out of the team for Bernardo Silva in year 50, bro. At some point, you got to trust the young players you have because City have talented players, man. Player for player, they probably still, you can make the argument, have the most talented team in the league. I think City have something going for them, but I think a big part of it will have to do with can Pep let go of the old guard? Because I think in the Club World Cup, it showed he's still not able to.
My thing is, one of the great things about Man City and Pep Guardiola is any team that he assembles, they feel untouchable. Yeah, this City feels touchable for me. You know what I mean? They feel City. When you look at every best City team, they feel untouchable.
But I'll tell you why that's the case.
Yeah,
the Pep teams of past had like established world level players in many positions. Bernardo when he was at his best, Gundogan, Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland. I would say Mahrez, Sterling at one point. John Stones was
now they're a lot more on par with the rest.
I think I think if you look at that caliber player, you have Haaland, you have Rodri, maybe Gvardiol. You could make the argument, but I think that's quite I think he's in it, like he's capable of that. Foden I thought was at that level a year ago, but I think needs to prove to everyone that can get back to it. And then I think you have a lot of players that have the potential to be seen as that kind of player.
That's
at the moment they don't we look at Liverpool and I think they have a lot of players at that level. City, I look at 2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it never used to be like that. City used to have the creme de la creme, and it also used to feel as you said, you do all these combined 11s. It's all City. Now it's like
Doku.
You know what I mean?
He's capable of maybe one day becoming that. Cherokee, if he puts it together, we're looking at a top player.
Savinho, you'd have been probably thinking, and he's off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the thing with City. I think that's why they're a very interesting team to look at. I think going forward, they're going to have a great side. I think they're in the middle of a mini rebuild right now where they're shifting out. I think personally, if Cherokee, Doku, Reinders, I think they have some really good players there, man. That in a year's time.
It's been 2 years with Doku now.
Well, he's still what, 22, 23? I think this is a big year for him. I think it's definitely a big year for him.
Yeah.
But I think they're kind of poised in the next few years to kind of be the next team to emerge. But I do feel like right now, they are kind of stuck between two eras.
I would say Chelsea are that.
Well, Chelsea also.
I would say Chelsea.
I think two teams could also be in that era. But I think they're kind of poised to grow into that. Where it's almost like Arsenal a few seasons back where you saw what they were building, but it just felt a little thing. But the problem is Arsenal, I feel like they might have failed to capitalize on the moment. If I go back to them, I think you might be a little higher on them than I am.
And you look at, you look at someone that's been there. I know he's been declined, but you look at someone again like an Edison who's there now. It's a James Trafford. For me, I still got to see James Trafford at this level.
That's what I mean. I feel like in a year's time we can more properly analyze them.
But right now, obviously, it's the prediction for this year.
It feels too early. It feels too early to go on and win the league.
Like I'm looking at a City team, and I'm just taking my Pep lens off. Now, Pep is obviously a massive factor. But I'm looking at a City team, and you're telling me their team, their defense, just first and foremost, is James Trafford, Nunes, Mateus Nunes, Diaz, Vardio, and Aït-Nouri. I'm sorry.
It's not the most fearsome defense.
Bruv, it's like, I'm just trying to be honest here. Do you know what I mean? That's just how I see it now. I've doubted Pep before and been completely wrong. I've also doubted him and been right. So who knows what's going to happen. But in this occasion, I just feel like I'm just saying, it's City. It's Pep, so they're going to do it. But I don't truly believe it.
I think to win the league, I think it's too far for them this year. But fourth, you have them finishing fourth. I do think when you have Erling Haaland, the guy's gonna win.
One thing, let me say sorry.
Because bro, they won, let's be real, right? They won 1 out of 13 at one point in all competitions last season. They still finished third, bro.
But
they beat up on a lot of the big lower teams, right?
I do think that's also kind of helping City in terms of how you see it. People are saying they had a bad season, but they still only finished 3 points off Arsenal. Go and look at Arsenal's results in their last 10 games. When Arsenal started beating Real Madrid and getting to PSG, Arsenal were dropping points for fun.
They threw away the league.
Yeah, so like when people say they only finished, they finished 3 points behind the worst
I think
Arsenal
it's more so
in
to do
3
with they
years.
still finished over Chelsea. They
Yeah,
still
I
finished
guess
over
so.
everyone else. Like,
Yeah, I hear.
you know what I mean? Like, we raved about
but-
Newcastle last season. They couldn't finish above City.
Yeah, I hear it. But one thing I would say for City is that they might have a lot of internal solutions. For example, not saying Haaland fell off or anything like that, but Haaland, as you said, if Haaland is at his best, they already have that guy. You know what I mean? Then it's peak. If Foden, wherever people want to laugh at Foden, if Foden's at his best, I'm sorry guys, him and Rodri, 2-man stepped City to a Premier League title, whether you like it or not. If he can get back to that, whether that just means he just shoots out, he may not have a creative back, just shoot and score. If he gets to that, that's an internal solution.
I think if they sign Rodrigo,
Rodri,
if he gets
internal
back,
solution. Now, Rodrigo, we could be having this
that's a
discussion,
game changer.
but
But also,
guys,
it's
this is
another
before the signing.
No, but it's also another one with Rodrigo. It's like let's see if he can become what we think he can
But
be.
again,
so
even
for me,
again,
it's
another
for me, it's
lightweight kinda.
I think Rodrigo could potentially be one of those guys you look at. Oh, that's one of the best players in the league. City got one of them. I just think right now with City, I agree with you. I think it's a lot of question. I think they're a year away from being a year away, in my opinion. I think they have a great team. Obviously, they have Pep, and I just think they're a year away. But fourth, I don't know, man. Look, I'm not saying Arsenal are gonna finish fourth. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm a lot lower on Arsenal, I feel, than you are. Because again, I agree.
Are you
with
lower on Arsenal than you are on City?
I don't know, but you know what I look at it as? I think City's ceiling as a side is higher than Arsenal's.
I honestly think if Arsenal play City, they'll beat City.
You know what, bro?
I think they will. I don't know. I don't know.
With Arsenal, you know what it is, man? I'm just a little fearful.
You're doing the same thing that kind of like I'm doing in the reverse. You're doing that. It's Arsenal. They never really do it.
No, it's not.
And I'm doing that.
I'm not.
It's City.
It's
So
not
they've
even,
got
it's
to
not
be
even
there.
about like I don't think either of them will win the league. But with Arsenal, I'm just a little afraid that it's kind of gone stale, bro. I'm of the opinion it might have gone stale, and I think if they struggle early doors this season, I think the mood can very quickly turn sour or very quickly turn impatient from everyone, to be honest with you, because everyone is starving for the taste of success. Every club, right? But Arsenal more than most, because they've been on the verge 3 seasons in a row. At some point, doubt starts creeping in your mind. No one, like, again, finishing second on paper, it's a great result. But when you're that close and you falter every single time, eventually that bit of doubt in your head starts to creep in, just kind of saying, is it meant to be us? Is this ever going to happen? And I think this season, if, I don't know, 3 months in the season, you get the impression again of Arsenal that, yeah, they're there and thereabouts, but it's going to be another year where they again fall short. I just have the opinion that this project might eventually kind of start to collapse.
I understand that, but does that project, with everything you're saying, is like the grand scheme, is that enough for them to drop out of the top 3 as of right now in your mind?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's very tough between Chelsea, City, and Arsenal. I don't view it, to be honest, like you do, as in it's like Chelsea and Arsenal and then City. For me, I view the 3 of them.
Close.
I view the 3 of them in the same boat. honestly,
It'll be close.
I think Chelsea are fresh. They're new. They're exciting. And I think a big thing of Chelsea right now is they have momentum. Coming off that Club World Cup, I think they're riding a high right now, bro.
The time is now, man.
I honestly look at them similar, and I think they've made some. Like I think Joao Pedro looks hungry. I think Cole Palmer will bounce back from last season.
Pedro, the way he plays as well, running around left, right, center, working you all game, and then he comes off and fucking Liam Delap walks on, bullish monster like that. You know, he came on the other day for Joao Pedro, that finish, banged it bottom bins. I'm like, yo.
I have to be honest with you. I'm very disappointed that Arsenal haven't gone for Eze, or that they look like they might miss out on Eze and that they haven't gone for Rodrigo. I'm very disappointed.
For fan morale?
I just think bad. I just even forget about fan morale, right? It's important, but I look at it from team dynamic point of view, bro. The reason I feel like it's still is because I still expect to see one of Martinelli, Trossard, and I guess now Madueke lining up on the left for Arsenal. Yeah. And I'm sorry, that doesn't really move the needle that much for me. Like when I look at what Arsenal need to do to get over the line, I think Gyökeres potentially helps them massively. Zubimendi is a better player than Partey. But that left side for me is a big question mark in my opinion for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I guess I have to see it to believe it with Madueke, but I don't think that's a massive game changer from what they had last season.
Yeah, I hear
I'm
that.
disappointed. Especially chance creation from the left. Nothing comes from that left-hand
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Nothing.
I
And
agree.
they had the potential. They had the opportunity, in my opinion, 3 times now with Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, and Eze to address that. And it looks like at the moment, the window's not closed, it looks like they failed to do that. And for me, that's disappointing from an Arsenal point of view.
No, I hear it. I hear that.
If we look outside the top 4, that 5th place might still be a Champions League position. It was last season. It could be this year. Who do you favor going into this season to kind of grab that 5th?
I mean, I still like Newcastle as a flat 11. Well, now we'll see how much this Isak thing affects them, who they replace him with, what goes on there. I mean, listen, there's reports that they might get Samu Agahawa, innit?
I like him.
Now, bro,
I'm a big fan of Sam.
I'm a fan of him. Like, if they get him in, I'm like still convinced of Newcastle. I think they're a good team. So I like Newcastle. Now, I don't think they're going to be in the in like 3rd or anything like that. But I think Newcastle 5th is something I'm thinking of. If City do get, if Spurs, I was not high on Spurs, but if they do now get the 2 signings of Eze and Savinho, and now you're looking at a midfield of Painha, Bentancur, Eze, Kudus, and Savinho behind Solanke.
I think it'd probably be Sarr over Bentancur, probably.
Maybe.
they have
I'm
options,
just thinking maybe because they might want a little bit someone that gets on the ball a little bit like more.
Yeah, I hear it.
And then they have the Destroyer and Painha in it, but good team.
I
You know what I mean?
think it's
Pape Sarr on the bench, if not, or starting, it could be him.
I think the biggest acquisition is Thomas Frank, bro. I think,
and then
because
Thomas Frank, so that's
Frank
interesting.
completely transforms them from a defensive point of view. Because the biggest transformation Spurs can do this season is not any player; it's
System.
finding out how to go from conceding 100 chances a game to like 5, 4.
Yeah.
And I look at the players they have in their defensive back line; they're good players. I've always kind of maintained this. Udogi, Van de Ven, Porro, Romero. There's no reason why that can't, by a coach, be assembled into a very structured back 4. Under Ange, as much as I loved Ange, they were at 6s and 7s every single game. So I think Thomas Frank coming in and just adding some stability and dropping Spurs' defensive line 10 yards deeper maybe and being a little less gung-ho of how quickly they kind of rush out. I think that's the biggest improvement Spurs can make. Now you add players such as Savinho and Kudus and Eze.
They don't
potentially.
strike me as Frank type of players, though. It's interesting.
I think Thomas Frank has a different edge to his game that we didn't get to see at Brentford. Man. I always said with Brentford, if you watch them, even from the championship, when they had Watkins and Benrahma, they were actually much more of a free-flowing side. And then I think with the acquisition of Tony and then coming to the Prem and having to adjust to that, they became a bit more robust, Route 1. But I think Thomas Frank is a lot more of an expansive manager than people give him credit for. And I think that'll be shown by the different kind of players he has now.
Yeah, I think you look at Aston Villa as well, where a lot of people are thinking, well, Villa haven't done much. People see a decline. A lot of people see a decline because it's been very kind of stagnant. But at the same time, they haven't lost anyone.
I think they have, though. I think they have. I think they've lost.
Rashford and Sassi.
But I think those guys were huge for them, bro. I think people forget Villa the first half of the season. Not to say they were bad, but they were inconsistent, bro.
The thing is, it's not even only that. It's like Duran left. Obviously, they brought in Rashford. But that means now that Rashford's gone, Duran hole is still there now.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs
But
to be
I just think
addressed
like
as well.
if Villa closed out the season really well, bro. In the Prem, they were one of the form teams in the league. If you remember, they were winning game after game after game, and there was only that City game away where they really fumbled, to be honest, that ended that winning run. But they ended the season extremely strongly, and I think a big part of that was adding in Rashford and Asensio. That almost gave them a spark.
Yeah.
Not being able to extend them because of PSR rules or whatever. And as far as I know, I think they brought in this one midfielder, but they haven't really improved the team too much. I think Villa have a tough season. I'm not saying they're going to finish bottom half, but I don't see them reaching the heights that they did the last 2 years, personally.
Nah, that's fair. They still got like very good players. Yuri, Anana.
It's a good team.
They got a good team. So Watkins. So we'll see what happens to them. Obviously, when you're talking about Man United, where would you see Man United? It's such a hard one to... I don't know with United, bro. Honestly, I'm still looking at 8th. I'm still looking around that at the moment.
8th is like, for me, if we sign Baleba, I think we finish 8th.
Yeah.
If we don't sign Baleba, I see 9th, 10th again.
Bro,
I think we've added big names in attack, and I think people will look at that, we've signed like 50 goals in the form of 3 players, but I don't think football works and like, we signed 50 goals, we're going to add it to our tally last year. That's not how it works.
My thing is, it's just like, United, let me tell you where I think Man United have opportunity. Not only is it because Man United are 1 game a week, like that's the catchphrase, that's the headline, 1 game a week, but 9 teams are playing in Europe this season.
Yeah,
9.
That's crazy.
That's half the Premier League, pretty much. Half the Premier League are playing in Europe this season, and Man United are playing 1 game a week. That could be the biggest booster of any 1 game a week season for any team has ever had. You know what I mean? No, there's never been 9 teams in Europe. This is a unique situation. 1 game a week. If Man United, fitness permitted, can actually have a fully fit team, well, again, you never know, but fitness-wise, then United could maybe do something. Not now, I'm not saying Champions League, but can maybe have a better season than that we are
European
that we are imagining. Yeah, because that is 9 teams playing in Europe, like, is mad, you know, and not all of them are top teams. It's Nottingham Forest. We can go if Nottingham Forest have played 4 games in 2 weeks or 5 games, and then they've done one of their fixtures is Man United fresh off 1 game a week, I want to win. Yeah. I expect to win. I expect to win if it's Palace. That's it. So, and I just don't know. One thing I think about this season, we're seeing small teams get their players picked off.
That's the point I was going to make. That's the point I was going to make.
Small teams are getting picked off. And then you're adding the European thing. And then some of the teams that are in Europe are not having great transfer windows at the moment. They're stagnant. Villa, Newcastle, we're going to see what happens. There's an opportunity there if you're thinking as an optimist.
Yeah.
Now, when we always think as optimists until we actually see what happens on the pitch.
Yeah, then I watch football.
That's the thing. So
Man United are the best team in the offseason.
Yeah.
We're the best transfer window team ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you look on the pitch and you're like, okay. But if I'm just speaking as an optimist, I don't want to be a pessimist today. I'm going to be an optimist. If you're looking at it on that logic, in that way of this logic that I'm giving, it's feasible. That's what I'm saying. Have a surprise season.
Feasible surprise. We're spending £300 million here, bro. Like,
yeah.
We're making it sound like we're like an underdog here. Bro. We're spending big money. I think the biggest point is the one you made at the end in terms of I expect a lot of teams that really punched above their weight in terms of what you would expect from a club of that stature. I see a lot of them falling off. I think Brentford are going to have a massive decline.
Same.
I think Wolves have lost their 2 best players. They're going to decline. These are teams that finished above United. West Ham look a weaker side than they did last year. Crystal Palace are potentially losing Guehi and Eze. Bournemouth have had their back 4 decimated. Brighton were potentially getting Baleba off them. Fulham are always going to finish around the same area. I would hope Man United, who have spent £300 million or upwards of that this summer, brought 4 to maybe potentially 5 really good players in. I would expect them to take opportunity of that and leapfrog those sides. Now you still have the likes of Newcastle, Villa, Spurs, and then of course the top 4, which would, for me, put United at 8th at best situation. And then who knows, maybe a Brighton outperforms them.
Brighton and
but
Fulham.
I look at a lot of those teams. Like Forest, I think will have a worse season they did last year.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity for Man United to leapfrog a few of those sides.
I agree. You know, and it's just about capitalizing on that. I think if we're talking about maybe a surprise factor, I think Everton.
That's my team this year. Even before, I know you're high on Grealish, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think even before that, I think Everton finished the season really well last year.
Bro.
Yeah,
they
Moyes came in and really
Everton and Moyes, beautiful marriage, right? And obviously, remember, new stadium, you know, maybe new vibes. Now, hopefully they can still replicate the Goodison atmosphere, but new stadium, more fans can get into the stadium now. You know, bro, give Scousers opportunity to make noise. They're going to make noise. You know what I'm trying to say? So you've got more Everton fans in there. You've got David Moyes, who I think this is the most beautiful thing ever, that David Moyes is walking Everton into their fucking new
It's amazing.
stadium.
He walked them out of Goodison.
Bro, it's just brilliant because he is Everton for me. Like in the Premier League era, he is Everton. So it's just brilliant. And then, bro, like, I'm sorry, when you walk into a new stadium, give me a Jack Grealish, bro. Excite me for this first season in this new stadium. Yeah. I think if Jack Grealish now, do we ever know if that Village Grealish is? Now, a lot of people are obviously saying he's the biggest flop, blah, blah. Put that aside. Grealish, for me, one of the things that we were talking about is, you know, was he given the freedom, blah, blah. Ultimately, he just wasn't good enough for it, right? Let's just say that. But I saw Grealish in the 2, 3, 4 games that Lee Carsley had him and put him in the midfield. Just gave him a bit of a free-ish role. It felt like Villa Grealish again. And I'm a fan of him, so my people are going to be, you're just doing too much. But I'm just saying, if under David Moyes, who I think always has good talent ID, I think if he can put his arm around Grealish and just be like, listen, forget that situation. You're here now. I think they can get a really good Jack Grealish in. We got Ndai, who I think is soon going to start bubbling.
I love him, man.
He's starting to bubble where it's like, hey, Are you the next one for a top six
they,
club?
They want
that
Dibbling
type-
as well too. Imagine
If they get
Dibbling,
Dibbling-
Njai, and Grealish. Ball carriers FC.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you look at, they got obviously they're always their stalwarts in Ducore and them
Corey
and
left.
Turco-
Corey left. Yeah.
He left?
Yeah, he left. Remember he wanted that new contract, and yeah, he left.
Damn, I didn't know.
Yeah, I think he
Ducore
went
left.
Qatar or Saudi, one of the two.
Whoa.
Ah, come on, that's not the biggest loss.
No, but I didn't know he left though. I actually didn't know he left.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, Tarkowski, we know
They
what
brought
they're
that
like.
kid
So
Barry as well, too.
Thierry
Yeah,
Barry.
big
So
talent.
I just think with Moyes, what they got going on, a new stadium, Jack Grealish in, who was the other name that we just said? Thierry Barry in. They've got signings. I'm excited to see what Everton do. So I think Everton might be the Brighton of this year. It might be the Fulham, the 9th, 8th,
I personally believe
10th, top 10.
I think sometimes you can see a team the previous season start to build ahead of steam. They almost like you can kind of see, next season
Villa
they're
did
gonna
it, Newcastle
I
did
think
it.
Palace were the biggest example when we saw Glasner kind of
Yep.
end the season, and then the next year, look what they did. I think you can always see like building blocks from the season prior.
Yep.
Last one, who do you think will be the best signing, or who's been the signing you've liked the most? I'll give you mine. I think Joao Pedro is a huge signing for Chelsea, and I personally have him as my guy that's going to go from a good player, he's a good Premier League player, to potentially by the end of the season, we're looking at him as like, oh, you're a star. Like, you're one of the best players in the Premier League. The guy looks so hungry at the moment. I always thought of Brighton, like, very talented player, very technically gifted, but almost a little too lackadaisical at times. Like, he gives me Berbatov vibes at times. Like, just strolls around. At Chelsea, in the first opening few weeks since he's been there, he seems to be playing with an edge. I'm seeing him strike the ball harder than I've ever seen him strike it before, bro. And I look at what he could potentially do with Cole Palmer in that Chelsea team. I think Joao Pedro is one to watch out for this season.
You know what? I'm going to give a bit of a rogue one.
Okay.
Because obviously there's obvious names, Reinders and Zubimendi and all these type of guys and Mbrumu and all that. But I'm going to go with El Hadji Malik Diouf, West Ham left back.
Yeah.
We saw him against England, right?
He whips the ball.
Flipping hell,
He
bro.
was so good.
I was like, who is this guy? And people were saying he's going West Ham. I was like, rah. He was a problem, right? I saw, obviously, the preseason, that whip that he gave. Was it for Jared Bowen?
Yeah.
Who was it for? He looks good, bruv. Athletic. He looks technically decent. He can whip a ball.
It's a great signing.
I think that might be one of them one and dones. Like, it could be a top season bomb, big club,
You reckon?
sign it. I think so, bro.
Yeah.
I think so. I think apparently, I might be wrong. This might be his third club in 3 years or something. I looked at his stats last season. Bro, he scored 7 goals.
Yeah.
Yo, as a left back, bro. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think that could be a one and done. I'm excited to see him. I know it might be boring left back, whatever.
I think that's a good show.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
It's not one of people are expecting Verts, Gyökeres.
Yeah. I want to see him.
Can I tell you who else I like
Yeah.
in terms of sleeper show? I spoke about him in the Club World Cup. John Arias going to Wolves.
Okay.
Creative player, 27 years old, played his whole career in South America. He's finally got his big break to Wolves. That's supposed to be the Cunha replacement. Now, Wolves have
Interesting.
sold potentially their two best players in Cunha and Aït-Nouri, and I think if they're going to stay up, you always kind of think those teams towards the bottom, they need a maverick that can kind of get them out of situations. Arias was on Fluminense and balled, bro. They were a very defensive team, similar to what I think Wolves are going to be on the back foot a lot of games, and he was kind of the outlet that gets on the ball and takes really good set piece, got a nice cross, got a nice finish on him. I think if Wolves are going to stay up, and I think they are going to be one of those teams towards the bottom, he's got to have a big impact.
Okay, and lastly, actually, I'll go on. What is your hot take of the season?
Oh, my hot take, I already gave it. I think Unai Emery will be the manager. Either he leaves at the end of the season or he'll leave it midway through.
So he's getting sacked this season.
Either he'll leave at the end
What do
or
you mean by
they'll
leave?
sack.
He's
No,
not
I
gonna
think
walk.
Villa and him.
He's not gonna walk.
I think I think him and Villa will separate at some point,
Okay.
either this season or at the end of the year. That's my hot take.
Okay, my hot take. It has to be hot though. That was a bit
Why?
mild.
Fuck, yeah.
A bit mild.
I think it's a big one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. My hot take. Remember, it's hot takes. Doesn't have to happen. My hot take is Max Stillman will get an England debut in a friendly.
So you see, you said Archie Gray last year was gonna get one. I'm still waiting on
you
that
know what
one.
I said? I think I said one. Did I say Archie?
Nah,
Gray or
you said
Nwaneri?
Archie Gray because remember we had our
God,
predictions.
with the injuries, man. They're gonna put him centre back, bro.
Why,
Come
you
on, it
can't-
didn't help, man. Come
Thomas
on.
Tuchel wouldn't play him at
Nah,
center.
bro, Tommy, bro, still wouldn't help him, man. He had to play centre back. If he had a fully fit season,
Aye.
maybe. I'm gonna say he's going to get a call
Hold on,
up.
my hot take last year was Spurs were gonna win
was
win a
good.
trophy, and they
Yeah.
did it. Let me get up. Yeah, you're right. Unai Emery wasn't hot enough.
this
What's
is-
my
that's
hot?
That's
Yeah.
a 16-year-old making an England call up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And now I'm not saying he's going to go
That's a
to the
big
World
shout.
Cup.
Yeah, that's a big shout.
I'm
That's a
just
big
saying he's going to get a friendly. That's
What's
it.
my hot take of this season? Ooh. Yo, I have to think about this. Nah, you put me on the spot. My hot take for this season.
Something wild. Just make it. It could be as wild.
Ruben Amorim will not be Man United manager past November.
Ooh.
That's a hot take.
November.
November's early in the season, right?
Yeah, November.
Maybe I'm
Okay.
exaggerating that just for the spiciness. But I don't think Amorim will finish the season with United. So no, I'm saying November, but personally, if it's a less, that's just to make it hot.
Yeah,
It's like a room temperature one. I don't think he'll be manager by the end of
Yeah,
the season.
that's
my hot.
possible.
That's my
That's
take.
possible.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Give
man.
us yours, by the way, in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about all the teams that we spoke about. Were we too harsh? Were we gassing teams up too much? Let us know. What's your top 5 heading into the season for the Premier League? We're super excited that it's back, and that means more content from me, from Cam, from the eye test. Stay up to date with all of it. I'll put all the links in the description down below. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.
Peace.